Going to bring you behind the curtain here of Film Don't Lie. So just before we started recording, Brent's over there checking his numbers, doing some calculations. That's the way his brain works. What am I doing? I'm out here on my back patio. My kids left some Play-Doh on the table. I've been playing with Play-Doh while he crunches the numbers. And that's our partnership with Film Don't Lie. And I love it. It's great for me because Brent makes me look smarter every time we do it. We're presented by Jittery Joes. Support them. JitteryJoes.com is where you can find some really cool holiday gifts to maybe send a little Athens to some people who maybe not living near Athens anymore would like to have that touch from the classic city. It's a great thing to send their way. Brent, you were in Mercedes-Benz Stadium for the SEC Championship, so you know that felt like a long game in part because of a lot of the big plays, some going Georgia's way, some not. We have another feature on Stetson Bennett and the big plays that he created. These are some of the other things that Georgia either created or that LSU created against Georgia.
Well, we talked about it really in the lead up to the game, and really even last week or the week before against Georgia Tech, about how if you're going to beat Georgia, you're going to have to YOLO a bunch of balls and actually just make plays and make those catches. And really, when I sort of step back in the biggest picture of this game, I know a lot of folks were concerned about the 500 yards passing, and that, Kirby even talked about that's unacceptable and we got to get better. But if you really look at it, like over 200 of those yards were, or right around 200 of those yards were after the score was 50-23. Another 68 were on the play before, and then this play right here. And then the rest of it was before, or another 50 some were right before the half. So almost 300 yards were kind of this is the one that was the most meaningful, but this is the one that I understood the most because they were straight up gassed.
Especially Christopher Smith,
who had just taken it 95 to the house.
Mm-hmm. Which I need to give Coach Donnan some. It's probably the craziest thing I've ever seen sitting beside him, because we're doing the watch along show and Christopher Smith returns that for a touchdown. And he says on the ensuing kickoff, he says, someone's going to have a cramp here. And sure enough, Cass Jones goes down with a cramp. And Ron Corson comes out and looks very concerned. And then Cass Jones is just fine. But then we joked about it the rest of the time that we need to check on Cass Jones.
I mean, that's the gamesmanship part of the game, sort of the game within the game. You always hear that phrase. He knows that better than basically anyone. And you could just the way the effort on this play and the play before, they'd been on the field for 22 of the first 25 plays of the game. And then you get the sort of the emotional part of it with the Smith touchdown. This was one of those just predictable plays almost in a way.
Yeah. A couple things just quickly. LSU's quarterbacks, I thought, were dialed in pretty darn well in this game. Daniels was throwing very accurately early on, and he was taking a couple chances, but then obviously Nussmeier later will see him. The other thing is Kayshon Boutte at one point was like a future top 5 potential pick, and he had an injury that he has not been the same from after, because he gets caught on this play by this gas defense. But if you remember Kayshon Boutte from 2 years ago, he wouldn't have gotten touched because he was so dynamic and best receiver in the country type of guy. Still a good player, but I kind of hate that for just the joy of watching good football players. I kind of hate that he's not what he once was.
Yeah, and you think about even just from a defensive perspective for Georgia, they missed 9 tackles in the game, 3 on one play. This one. But like you said with Daniels, though, the interesting thing with Dan, one of the unique things that they did that I actually think you're going to see Ohio State copy is a lot of bunch and, going different ways and then hitting the quick stick route. Like it was consistently, hey, we're going to hit the 7-yard stick and just keep moving the chains, because we know, I think is the biggest thing, is because they couldn't run the ball at all. So they just like, all right, we're going to spread everybody out and just hit the quick, stick hitch route type deal consistently.
Yeah, it was catch and throw a lot, and it's one reason Georgia didn't get a ton of pressure until this play, and Chaz Chambliss wins his rep.
They thought they could block him with Mason Taylor, and that did not go well. But I'm going to give credit, and I think this game goes to show, I think, how smart Georgia Tech was to hire Brent Key. Georgia Tech is the only team, and I think Ohio State will do this. Maybe not. Georgia Tech is the only team that, in essence, said Jalen Carter is not going to beat us. He had one pressure on like 35 pass rush snaps against Georgia Tech. He had 6 in this game, including a sack. And he just look at what the right guard does here. Why on earth would the right guard not? I mean, I get he thinks maybe the linebacker's coming a little bit, and Georgia does a good job of creating that separation, but who cares? 88, handle 88. If Ohio State does not handle 88, they will get dunked on.
So you mentioned that right guard. We talked about a ton. How do you do your spy, especially down in the red zone, on Jaden Daniels? And Jalen Walker does it right here. It does a pretty darn good job getting centered up. And I'm going whichever way you are. Don't have to. You're on the ground.
And then a phenomenal job of like, ooh, I'm coming, and then I'm not.
Yeah.
Because that caused that hesitation. And by the way, Chad's winning his rep. We've kind of been a little harsh the last few weeks. He had a career high 4 quarterback pressures on, I think, 21 pass rush snaps. 2 out of the last 3 games, he's been, over right 67, 71, like in terms of overall grade. And they do the other great part of this is the lines that you're drawing there is, does the offensive line have any clue who's coming here? Because, and by the way, you don't see teams do what they do here often, which is, where is every single player on Georgia's defense? In the field of play, not in the end zone. Like oftentimes you'll see 1 or 2 guys, like I think it was Georgia Tech we highlighted last week, those guys that were just hanging out in the end zones, taking steps back. Not this defense. And look what happens here with 3 receivers. Look at the outside receiver on top of the screen, gets doubled. Bottom of the screen, doubled. Like, you went from thinking, oh, they might be bringing 6, and I'm just going to get one-on-one coverage on these guys, to no, we got 2 guys doubled. We're playing man in the middle with a spy, and we only actually brought 4. Really.
Georgia won't see a running quarterback as fast or as good of a running athlete as Daniels anymore. But Stroud can move a little. Like, he can extend a play. And if you get Michigan in the title game, McCarthy has been really good on his
That's
feet.
the one, yes. And Duggan too. But Stroud is going to move a little bit to throw.
Yeah.
He's the game that there's basically one game in the season that, in his career for that matter, in 2 years, that he's actually ran the football. And that was when, the warm-up kickoffs were getting pushed down to the ground at Northwestern because the winds were 50 miles an hour or whatever it was. That's the only game he's really run. He's not going to want and or choose to run. Now he might have to in this game, but he moves to throw.
Yeah. I don't think he'll be using spies on him in that way unless he just starts to abuse you somehow. That's not been on tape for him. We'll give that another day. First play of the second quarter.
This is just awesome. Did you think of something when you saw this play, by the way?
What would I have thought of? I mean, I don't know that I remember seeing a ball go off a helmet like that.
True. That was, I would say, very true that. But just the nature of the play, the star blitz, the safety coming down, this is Clemson 2.0 for Chris Smith, except this time he didn't catch it. He just deflected it. Yeah,
and Kirby said that this is something that he's run 1,000 times in his time at Georgia, this technique here.
But this is knowing, and but look how he reads the route. Once he reads the in-cut route, just explodes forward to it, just like he did against Clemson, except obviously got inside of it and took it to the house there. So that's right. The other thing is phenomenal job by Bullard, especially Bullard, but also Bullard and Munden, coming back to the play, because otherwise if they just kind of jump on the ground and then stop, the ball falls to the ground, no pick.
Yeah, because that ball is in the air right here. And look where Bullard is. Like, this is just energy and effort and getting there and
being an athlete, tipping the ball, catching it. Malachi had a chance to absolute destroy Mr. Daniels. He missed it, unfortunately. Like, if I'm Malachi right there, I am hunting 5.
I think Walthour took care of it later.
Yes.
Not intentionally. I'm not claiming that. George had a couple crucial stops.
I mean, this was the sort of the second quarter was their offense couldn't be stopped. They obviously got the interception and the touchdown subsequently, but LSU 2 quick three, or I think they had 3 and outs in a row, but it's because they couldn't get short yardage plays. And this is something that you actually don't necessarily see a ton of from Georgia's defensive line, but this is a full out slant angle, whatever you want to term it along the defensive line. But watch 78, 90, and then Chaz on the edge, all instantly rip through with their right arm and step left at an angle. And because of it, Walthour doesn't even get blocked. Amazing. Causes confusion.
Play. Gets a little help off the edge from Lassiter.
Heck of a job by him, because guess what? All 11 players for LSU are in the box are visible right there. Instantly he sees block. All right, I'm going to come and help and finish it off. That to me this play is the essence of what Georgia's defense is. It's 11 guys knowing what to do and playing sort of team defense and playing their job. And when those things happen and you combine that with the talent that they have, you get the defense that you get.
And just from a storyline standpoint, if Georgia wins back-to-back national championships, the most improvement on the team can all be seen on this play, I think. I'm talking Oregon game on this year, things that had to improve. Because one, corner number 2 and Lassiter, who I would say for the past month, 6 weeks, has been really consistent and very aggressive. He's just playing with more confidence than he did. You could tell he was thinking in those first 3, 4, 5 games.
Yep.
Chaz Chambliss, we've seen the last couple of weeks, had some errors, grew a little bit in this game. But the main thing to me, for what Georgia lost on its defensive line last year, for Stackhouse, for Walthour, I mean, it's that unit. We knew what Jalen Carter was, and he's even better. For the other guys on that unit to have gotten better, to where they're not getting big headlines. They're not even making a ton of household plays.
Right.
This is one though.
Stackhouse is the interesting one. He's really sort of come into his own, especially as a run defender. Interesting that you said that about Lassiter. Last 2 weeks, by the way, Lassiter's been targeted 4 times. Keely Ringo's been targeted 21 times.
Woo! You can kind of feel it too. I didn't know if any of the numbers would be that extreme, but you can kind of tell. 2nd and 7 here. This is Garrett Nussmeier in the second half.
And it's bad luck. Sometimes a great throw beats you and the ball gets thrown a little higher and the receiver does a great job making an adjustment and you take a bad angle, much like we saw against Florida. I think Kirby talked about after the game how, he's made that play umpteen number of times in practice. And, sometimes you just get beat on that. Now, the key here, though, is understanding what the team that you're about to play is going to do. They're going to, because this ball's out quick. You're not going to get pressure on this play. It's 1, 2, 3, hitch, throw. You've got to sort of be in line and know exactly what you're doing from a coverage perspective, because they're going to take Ohio State's going to take shots, and they got some players on the outside, including the best receiver in the country.
Before Tennessee, I think we said Tennessee's going to target Starks. How Starks plays is going to determine what Georgia's defense does in this game. And he played very well. I think the same can probably be said for Ohio State. And the quality of their receivers across the board is better than Tennessee to me.
And the system is how do you defend it? I actually think it's just harder to defend, because they're going to attack all parts of the field. Tennessee's limited in where they attack. Yeah. And it's kind of like one or the other, as opposed to 4 options or something like that. So we'll see. But oh well.
And Kirby's been harsh on this play, but I mean, let's also look at situational awareness here of LSU's down 25 points. They have the backup quarterback. They have nothing to lose. They're taking all kinds of shots at this point. And you just have to give Nussmeier credit, because I mean, I think the instant thing everyone thought was just like gunslinger. Dude has an arm. And I mentioned in our preview, my brother's an LSU fan, so I've gotten to know a lot about this team just from talking with them. That part's never been in question. It's just that, as you saw with an interception that he had, he puts the ball into trouble too often.
He believes in the arm that he has, and he's going to throw the ball accordingly.
Works out here, but it was close. It was very slim margins.
This is the other thing. And this, he YOLO'd a bunch of balls. And the deep shot part, I will say, Malachi, this one, I thought he hesitated one shuffle too many. And thus, Ringo's just trailing. But the biggest thing for me with this, and I, in general, I wasn't necessarily worried. Or the passing yardage part didn't necessarily worry me. What kind of worried me with this game was LSU. I think it was either 9-14 or 10-14. Either way, it's a really good number in terms of them winning the contested catches. And guess what? Ohio State has better receivers. And if Smith and Jigba plays, which he hasn't basically the entire season, but you never know what another 30 days is going to do. Like, that's the part that that number can't be in the 60 to 65% range. That number has to be less than 50% because, and even with Ringo 9 times out of 10, he's right there. It's just find the ball. Find the ball. That's I bet that's maybe the phrase for the next 30 days. Find the ball. I think they're going to cover well. It's just find the ball because guess what? Ohio State's receivers, especially Marvin Harrison Jr., he's going to find the ball. Yeah. He has one drop on like 120 targets.
This was LSU's long run, and TV copy cut it a little short here. So,
and it's just that's what happens when you dominate an entire game. You're playing pass completely. Like I think as he was running down the field, the safeties were still looking to the outside part of the field. Lassiter does a great job of catching him. You know what their other longest run was?
I mean, I saw Emory and Kane in like the fourth quarter had a total of like 11 yards. So I'm assuming it's something like
5 yards.
Yeah.
They had 76 sack yards. I don't count that stuff as running yards, but they had 76 rushing yards, 47 on that play. So that they completely made them one-dimensional.
Let's get back to Georgia's side here. We're talking about big plays, and this is the 2-point try to go to 50 points, 50 burger.
How many times have we talked about this with Ladd and wanting this to be Ladd? And by the way, Kirby, they basically said in the post game, yeah, he hadn't practiced this because somebody else had, i.e. Ladd. Yeah. But great job by Mitchell. Darnell, good job. Hit, release, high point the ball. That's just fun. And obviously Monken was having a lot of fun when you saw the clip of him with the gazillion high fives after this play.
The thing I thought as I look at this more and more is there an iteration of this or Stetson has a second assignment and he can get a pass back somehow. I doubt that ever happens because that takes some like double reverse passing stuff. And this is designed just to go quick. You're at the 2-yard line.
So I'm actually a little mad at myself that I have 2 plays. Like I was saving it for after this game. There's 2 plays in the Kentucky game where it's kind of happy accidents in a way that things that they didn't really plan on happened in the game. And because of it, it showed me 2 plays that they could 100% use as 2-point plays. Well, and one of them was basically similar to this.
Let's save it and we'll use it for some content later as our off season is beginning. And we have about 3 weeks here before we have to get, Ohio State review going. Main thing I'll just say is personnel-wise, I mean, come on. Who's going to have the biggest catch radius just in terms of body? Yeah, I know Bowers can go up higher. I get all that. But Bowers also draws more attention. And so I think this is the perfect person to be on the receiving end of this.
I agree.
Darnell Washington.
Hey, and it's a spiral too, by the way. It's even better.
Yeah, I think Stetson said something about that. 2 more plays here. Got to give Kendall Milton some love.
We have to. I think this was the singular best run of his career. There was one against Kentucky last year that he set up really well and then hit inside, but it was more of a function of the defense being bad and him making a cut and exploding off of bad defense. This is running back play. This is phenomenal because if you watch it, and the best part about this is he's still going forward. as he's making his moves. Oftentimes with him, when he's hesitating or his feet are chopping, he ends up staying still and in one spot. Here, he's moving forward as he's making these cuts. And so if we take it sort of frame by frame, so as he gets this, had all the drawings, as he gets this ball and moves forward. So right about here, a little more right there. Okay, so you see the free LSU backer, I think, or safety, 3 to his left. Like right there, that guy. So he's free. So all right, he's gonna start looking and sliding to his right. So he moves forward. Good job. Head turns a little bit, sees that guy, and then instantly puts his foot in the ground. And because he turned right, it allowed the timing for the blocking to happen. And then here, and you can 100% tell that his level of explosiveness over the past few weeks is almost, to me, is as good as it's looked since he's been here.
And every freaking time.
Well, I hate that. I in my notes, by the way, I wrote, never block the backside with him specifically, because this is what people are going to do to him. Like, just let him be a threat and run by them so he doesn't get his knees destroyed by these guys or groin area. But just phenomenal run. By the way, Milton in this game, career high in terms of grade, 87. Yards, what was it, 113, I think. Yards per carry was 14.1. Yards after contact per carry was like 9.6. All career highs in a single game. Over the last 4 games, since he's kind of come back healthy, 23 carries, 241 yards, 2 touchdowns, 5 10-plus yard runs. Him getting healthy at the right time, bonus for the offense. Just beyond bonus.
What do you teach running backs in the open field in terms of like stiff arm here? Because I'm assuming if he just focuses on running, he's probably going to gain a little bit more than beginning to do kind of the arm fighting here. I always wonder if that slows down running backs, but maybe it doesn't at all. Maybe that's just in my head.
No, I mean, it's just, and I think Derrick Henry's kind of popularized that in a way.
Yeah.
The way he sort of dunks people into the ground with it. But LSU
Milton's
actually
big. He ain't Derrick Henry big.
By the way, exactly. LSU, the guy does the same thing to him that the next guy does to Dayne. That when you see them put the stiff arm out, LSU instantly tries to rip it down. And on the next run, I think it's the next run. Dayne's case, it tackles him basically because he's leaning forward and his balance there. But I agree, it's one of the things.
Let's get to it. And that was Major Burns, by the way, former Georgia player.
Yep. Stupid corner. Like that number 5 is gonna be on that coach 30. Man, 5, what you doing? What you doing going inside? I mean, whatever he does, he's leaning against the camera. But
some mama joke.
Yes. But the thing with this play that you can't actually see is, and this was a theme of the game, is this formation 9 times out of 10 started with Darnell and Brock on the other side of the formation. They shifted from one side of the field to the other almost every play. And what it caused, and you saw oftentimes LSU's flipping their entire defensive line because they don't sub and because they have certain guys that have strengths versus others. They oftentimes would even flip their defensive line, and their linebackers are flipping, and everybody's moving. So, because when you think about that strategically, what are you trying to do? What does LSU want to do? They want to play fast. Well, how do you slow down speed and athleticism? You make them constantly think. And they did that. I would almost bet that 80%, I need to go back and look just to count and be sure. I would bet 85% of the plays had some form of shift or motion on the play. And it's because of that. In this formation, we talk about it all the time. But all right, so trivia question for you.
All right.
If I said, Dayne, who are the top 4 in this game in run block grade, who would you pick?
Top 4 in run block grade. All right, I always pick Darnell. I'm assuming Bowers was pretty good because Georgia was able to run well. Van Pran had a good game just from my naked eye. And then
I'm asking you because of this play, by the way, and who's on the field.
Yeah.
You're missing.
Who are you going to tell me? Who are you going to tell me?
Numero uno.
Rosemary.
Yeah. So top 4 run block grade in this game. Rosemary Jackson, Bowers, Ladd, then Darnell. Like those 4 players and their ability to block, especially these 3 right here in this formation, it opens up everything for your offense. And when you have idiot corners go inside, it makes it a big play.
For the last 20 to 25 minutes of game clock in this game, Georgia ran almost exclusively from this one formation, which you have your trio down here, you have your one receiver up top. The only variation that I saw, and maybe you saw more than I did, is the running back to the right or left of Stetson Bennett.
Yep.
And they ran everything out of that, mostly running. I get it. But I just thought that was – I looked at it and I was like, I think they're kind of running the same play half the time here.
Oh, yeah. And very much so. And
this was, Dayne cut it outside here, but there were a ton of times that this was the same play, just kind of cut off right tackle.
But think about what you're doing here. Rosemary Jackson is going down and blocking down. I wish he'd be looking forward, but he's kind of looking at the ball. Blocking down on the LB, I think ends up who he gets.
Yeah, I'm just kind of in that general direction.
So that's there. Like, so you're asking your outside wide receiver to be your physical at the point of attack down block guy. That doesn't happen. And then Mr. Bowers is taking care of Perkins like he's a little toy.
Hey, just because Perkins wasn't as explosive in this game and we hyped him up, I'm telling you, that guy's special.
And they just handled him. And what LSU kind of, I think he only had like maybe 10 or 12 pass rush snaps. LSU was fearful of Bowers and they were like, all right, he's the only guy we got that can cover Bowers. They used him so much on that realm that it kind of, to me, took him out of what would make him special in this game. But, SEC championship, 12-0, 13-0.
13-0, 12-0 regular season, SEC title, on to the playoff. We'll be doing some previews of Georgia versus Ohio State, and then we'll have a quick turnaround if Georgia wins that game. National championship against either Michigan or TCU. We're excited to be on that ride. I agree, but they still have to play the game.
Hey, you never know.
We can talk about this a ton on podcasts and things, but I do think Georgia got like the most unfortunate draw that they could have gotten. Like, your reward for that regular season is to play one of the probably 2 teams that talent-wise can kind of hang in terms of just like overall talent on the roster, because it's Georgia and Alabama and Ohio State, and no other team has anywhere near the amount of talent. It doesn't mean that other teams can't beat those 3 teams. Obviously, you saw it this year. Michigan destroyed Ohio State, mainly in the fourth quarter, and Alabama lost 2 games on the last play. Still lost 2 games. Sorry, Nick Saban. Vegas doesn't matter, except the money they make. All right, we're done with this for Film Don't Lie. Thanks, Jittery Joes, for supporting us. Make sure you like or subscribe, whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. For Brent Rollins, I'm Dayne Young.